wherever you are in your life, what got you to this point, what got you to your current career and your current income level is not going to get you to the next level. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. You know what time it is? It's time for Life of a CISO with the Dr. E is in the house. You ready to rock? You ready to roll? We ready to transform lives? Because that's really what I do. It's always funny because people always ask me, oh, what do you do for a living? What's your career? Right? All those different things. And I used to tell people cyber security. I used to tell people I was an uber geek. I used to tell people I was that weird breed of entrepreneurial geek, right? I've had many different explanations. Now what I tell people is I make lives better. And hopefully you agree with that. Hopefully you're getting benefit out of every single one of these. I get a lot of very positive texts and emails. I love those. I love feedback. So please keep posting. Please keep emailing back. Just so you know, it all gets passed to me. Yes, like most folks, I do have a team, but as you can see, I'm the content generator. I'm the dude behind the cameras, and my team passes on those messages to me. And they're awesome because what they'll sometimes do is they save them because, like everybody, this is my happy place. Right? I'm in a great mood. I come across, I share stories with you. But like everyone, I mean, there's times where I'm just like, it's been a long day, right? It's just been a long day, or it's been a long week and it's only Monday, right? I'm sure we've all had those. And it's sort of one of those, you just sort of pushing through, going through and doing the motions. And you sort of know you got to do it, but you don't really have the full fire. And my team's amazing because those are the moments where they'll send me your feedback. They'll send me messages from you, how these podcasts are changing lives and transforming and making lives better. And I tell you, they mean the world to me. It's like somebody goes in and just gives me that injection of a turbocharge, right? That nitro, and it just zaps me and helps. So I appreciate all the feedback. Once again, all feedback is great feedback. So I know sometimes people have some suggestions and improvements. That's awesome. But once again, we love hearing from you. We love your feedback. We want to keep improving. And this episode is actually based on some recent feedback of lessons learned as a CISO. I get a lot of these, Eric, could you share sort of some lessons learned that you've gotten over the years of how you've improved and gotten better as a Chief Information Security Officer? So that's what this episode is all about. But in that theme, in that context, I just want to do a little teaching up front before I get into those lessons learned. And here's the teaching. What got you to this point in your life, wherever you're at, whether you're a senior security engineer with 7 years experience, whether you're a SOC manager with 5 years experience, whether you're a mid-level engineer with 3 years experience, wherever you are in your life, what got you to this point, what got you to your current career and your current income level is not going to get you to the next level. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to tap in to a new part of you. And I will tell you, I'm doing this right now in several areas of my life. I have coaches, just so you know. Coaches always have coaches, right? Nobody ever stops learning and growing. And I was just texting with my coach this morning because I'll be honest with you, I was struggling a little bit with this idea of if I have to become somebody else, then am I really being true to who my authentic self is? Right? It's like, why do I have to change or become a different person? And the reality is, And my coach was brilliant. He goes, Eric, we're not actually making you somebody else. He goes, what we're actually doing is removing stories. We're removing false beliefs that are holding you back. So what we're really saying is, in order to become the next version of you, we have to get rid of some stories. We have to get rid of some BS. We have to get rid of some things that people told you that was fictional, but because you trusted that person, or you listened to them, or you followed that advice, one of the most dangerous things that can happen to any human being is when their mind takes fictional and makes it nonfiction. When they take made up fictional stories that are not true, and for whatever reason, something happens in your mind, it's usually at the unconscious level, and it flips over to now your mind saying, this is true. This is factional. This is facts. This is non-fictional. So what my job is, which I call it one of my superpowers, is I'm able to go in and help you identify so we can transform you into the world-class Chief Information Security Officer. Or we could transform you into whatever it is you need to be. But here's the reality. If you were capable as the current version of you with the current stories that you believe to be true, if you were capable of making $1 million, you would have made $1 million. Whatever amount of money you are making right now is what your current capacity is. Whatever position you're currently in is what your current capacity is. You're always going to go to that maximum capacity. Then, in order for you to change or transform, we have to change or transform your beliefs. We have to change or transform your stories, so now you are capable of going to a new level. The way I like to describe it is our lives are like thermostats. So if right now you're a security engineer making $250K, and you've been there for a year, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, that's your current thermostat. That's where your current thermostat is set, that, okay, right now, I believe I am a security engineer that can make $250K. And what'll happen is, if you start making less, all of a sudden you'll start working harder to get back to that 250. But here's the crazy part. If you start making more, you also adapt back down. So what we need to do is change your thermostat. We need to change your identity so you believe that you are truly a Chief Information Security Officer, that you are capable of making 500, 600, 700K a year. And once we can get you to start believing that, that's when everything shifts. That's when everything changes, and that's when these lessons that you're hearing make the difference in the world. So even though we're talking about lessons learned, a lot of these lessons, if you really apply them, what I really want them to do is start having you question beliefs and identities about yourself that are not true and start to transform, start to pivot. So if you use these lessons learned correctly, they actually can start changing your identity, changing who you are, and changing how you view yourself. Because that's the reality. People come to me because they want to become a Chief Information Security Officer. And they want skills. It's the craziest things, my friend. Craziest thing you've ever seen. People come to me because they think they don't have enough skills. You don't have no idea how many people with 3 to 5 years experience come to me and go, Eric, I want to be a Chief information security officer. So what they want are more skills. They want me to teach them how to think and act like a chief officer, how to interact at the boardroom level, how to brief a board, how to put together an executive briefing, how to use cybersecurity as a way to increase profit and revenue. And I'll give that to you, and that's going to help. But most of you, that's what you want, but what you don't realize is what you need is an identity shift. What you need is to think of yourself differently. Because most people that come to me that say, I want to learn new skills, when they talk to me, they're still believing they're a security engineer. I hear things like, Eric, I've always been a security engineer. That's what I know. That's what I love. I don't think I could become a CISO, or I'm not sure if I could become a CISO, or I don't know if I'm CISO material, or any variation of that BS. And here's the reality. I can give you what you want. I can give you all the skills you need. But if you don't change your identity and you still believe you're a security engineer, you still believe you're not CISO material, you still believe you're not worthy to be in the boardroom, you're going to stay stuck. Now, if I shift your identity so you believe you're a CISO, but you don't have all the skills, you'll become a CISO and you'll struggle. So I'm going to give you both. Right? I give you what you want and what you need so you can become a CISO and become a very, very successful CISO. So here's the first lessons learned and the first skill and the first identity shift that you need to make. And that is this. Brilliant people, world-class chief officers, listen a lot more than they speak. Smart people know the right answers and want to talk a lot. Brilliant people ask the right questions and listen a lot more. And this was one of the biggest lessons learned and shifts for me that I want you to get. As a security engineer, when you're invited to meetings or you're in discussions, it's because you're one of the smartest people in the room when it comes to cybersecurity, and people want to hear you. So as security engineers, we're trained to speak a lot. We're trained to show people how smart we are. We're trained to always be pointing out the problems and the issues and what needs to be fixed. So when I get around really good security engineers, they are chatty patties, right? They love talking and love explaining and love giving all this information, all this detail. That is very, very effective as a security engineer. It will be detrimental to your success as a chief officer. Chief officers are much more tactical. They're much more laser focused on what is the problem, what is the issue, and how I can fix it as quick as possible. Just to use an analogy, a security engineer goes in and just open fires. Right? They're just laying down fire, right? Shooting as many bullets as they possibly can, just laying a ton of cover. Getting as much information out as quickly as possible just to cover the realm of all possibilities. A chief officer is a sniper. You basically get one or two shots, right? Right? You're not laying down a ton of cover. You're strategically figuring out, identifying your target. You're figuring out exactly what needs to be done, and you fire the bullet. Very different mindset, very different identity, and I will tell you, it's very uncomfortable in the beginning. I remember when I was trained on this and my coaches and I understood it. and I would go to these board meetings, and I would typically speak the least amount. I would listen. I follow one of my rules, and I'll give you one of my golden rules. I always ask 3 clarifying questions before I give an answer. So I'll sit there and I'll ask a few questions. Wait, you said X. Can you give me a little more detail about that? What exactly do you mean when you said X? What do you? And I'll just ask a few questions, gather data, and then when the moment's right, I'll be like, boom, I'll shoot the one bullet, and I'll lay down the solution and lay down the answer. And it felt very strange to me, and I will tell you, I was always wondering whether I was really adding a lot of value. And what I find is, and this is how I approach my masterminds, this is how I approach my different meetings, when I brief boards and everything else. And what I find is, I start getting similar comments, which is, Eric, you don't speak a lot. You listen a lot. We know you're listening based on your answers. You are not diddling or texting or doing other things. You are fully immersed in the meeting, processing and listening. But Eric, one thing I don't know if you notice, while you speak the least, when you speak, everybody listens. There's some of those people in some of the boardrooms or some of the masterminds that are always speaking and chatting. And you see that when they start chatting, some people, they pick up and they start texting and doing other things because they know it's just sort of filler information and not super valuable. You want to be that person that doesn't speak a lot, but when they open their mouth, everybody pays attention because they know that you've been processing information for 20, 30 minutes, and when you speak, it is pure gold. Make every word count. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. So that's the first lesson learned I really want to sink in, and I really want you to pay attention to. When you're in meetings, when you're in discussions, I just want you to consciously be aware of 2 things. How much are you speaking versus how much is the other person speaking? Second, how many questions are you asking? And I will tell you, one of the most powerful questions you can ever ask. Can you tell me more? Can you give me a little more information or a little more detail about that? Can you dig a little deeper? Because here's the reality. People are initially answering a question at a high level, and they want to see if you're interested. If you immediately jump in and start speaking, or you change the topic, or you ask a different question, you are basically telling that person, I'm not really interested in what you have to say. I'm asking you a question, but I really don't care because I just want to move on to my agenda as quickly as possible. But if you ask a question, and after they answer, you go, can you tell me a little more? You mentioned X. Can you dig in and give me a little more details about that? You're now showing them how interested you are. You're getting more and more information, and you're basically getting exactly what you need to be able to solve that problem. So first, lessons learned, switching from a security engineer to a world-class CISO is listen more and talk less. So just start. Awareness is the key here. People always ask me going, but Eric, if you're telling me I have these false beliefs at an unconscious level that I believe are true, but they're unconscious, how do I access and how do I change? And it's by awareness. Start being aware of how you behave. Start being aware of how you show up. Start being aware of how you interact. And I actually have team members or my EA do this for me. I'll periodically, if I'm having a very important meeting, I'll have a staff member or an EA, or you can even have a friend come along and just have them with a little clock and just have them time how much you speak versus how much other people speak. And have them tally how many questions you ask and how many times you ask, can you tell me more? Awareness is the key to accessing your unconscious beliefs and changing, modifying, and altering them. So that's first big lesson learned. Second big lesson learned. And this is one of the biggest problems and challenges for new CISOs. And this is also a big challenge when you switch jobs. Because let's face it, CISOs in this current day and age, as executives and companies and businesses are still understanding what this role is, we're going to have a pretty high turnover. Most CISOs expect to switch jobs every 18 to 24 months. And there's two reasons for it. One is there's very few CISOs with experience. So the reality is, if you get an entry-level CISO job with a $300 or $400 million company, and you do it successfully for 2 years and you're getting paid, say, $300 to $400K, your net worth now is probably $700 to $800 at a much larger company. Your current company probably can't or won't pay you. So it actually does make sense for you to potentially keep switching or upgrading. So that's going to happen. Or the inevitable. I'm working on changing it. We're working on changing it. But unfortunately, a lot of companies today still don't understand clear metrics for security and think that 100% security exists and that CISO should prevent all breaches. Which means when a breach happens, regardless of what you did, regardless of how well you did it, you will probably get fired. So for those two reasons, you'll have a high turnover rate, which is fine because you keep getting more and more money and you keep getting more challenges. So it's a net positive, but the reality is you're going to be in these situations a lot more where this is a big mistake. You think you need to prove yourself. Brand new CISOs and CISOs that come into a new company, because of the nature of who we are as technical people, and we always know there's more to learn and there's weaknesses, we always think we need to prove ourselves. We always think we need to walk in and prove how smart we are, prove how good we are, prove how much knowledge we have. And I see this all the time, where this new CISO or CISO just changed jobs, they're in a boardroom presentation, and they're in the middle of this discussion, and the CISO jumps in. Let me tell you about the last company where I worked at, and we had the same exact problem, and I came in and I solved it, and I saved them hundreds of millions of dollars, and I increased their revenue, I increased their profitability, and basically, I am so good, I am so smart, let me give you my resume, let me give you my credentials, let me show you how brilliant I am. All you're doing is annoying everybody in the room. Let me put it this way. If they didn't think you were qualified, they wouldn't have hired you. If they didn't think you were qualified, you wouldn't be sitting in that room. So you need to accept that you deserve to be there. You need to accept that you are worthy of having that title and sitting in that seat. And you need to show up and help them fix their problems. Don't waste time trying to prove yourself. All it does is alienate, all it does is frustrate, and all it does is have a counter position, because they're not going to want you in the meeting. If you trying to prove yourself and show them how smart you are, actually doesn't do what you think it does. They don't sit there and go impress. It's counterproductive, and they actually like you less. So it's actually what you think you're doing, and what you're actually doing is the complete opposite. So you need to just accept and realize you belong. This is a confidence issue. All CISOs struggle with it. I struggle with it. We all struggle with it. But you just have to accept I belong and go back to what we said. Ask more questions, listen, and focus on quality of information and not quantity. And then tied to that, as a security engineer, your primary job is to do what? To point out risks, to point out vulnerabilities. Your primary job is to go in and identify problems. And that's why you talk a lot. World-class security engineers can look at any situation, any network, any environment, and go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Have a nice day. World-class CISOs are great at world-class security engineers are great at pointing out problems. However, if you then go into the boardroom and all you're doing is pointing out problems, you're once again going to frustrate everybody and you're going to be counterproductive. They're paying you the big bucks to solve the problem. They know they have a problem. They need you to point out the problem. They don't need you to go in and tell them everything that's wrong. They want to give you the solution. That's why the way most CISOs brief executives is totally broken. Here's why. The way most CISOs brief the executive board is they have this really thick slide deck and they go in and they point out all the problems. Okay, we have these issues where we have data that's not protected, and we have data that's not compliant, and we have data that's not adherent with the security standards, and it's not properly protected or secured, and we have this leakage area, and these systems are out of date, and you basically sit there and telling them all the problems. And then you end the presentation. And almost everybody at an executive level that is chief officer in a boardroom is sitting there going, that was useless. Where's the good part? Where's the part where you earn your money? If all we needed were problems, we could hire a security engineer at $200K. We're paying you $500K because we want solutions. They don't care about the problem. So world-class CISOs know when you go in and brief an executives board, you have maybe 4 or 5 slides, and all you do is tell them the solutions. Listen, here's the solution, here's the solution, here's the solution, here's the solution. You probably all heard it, but it's called my Magic 4. It works all the time, it's brilliant, it's solid, it's exactly aligned with executive mindset. And it's this. Here's the risk, likelihood of occurring, cost if it occurs, cost to fix it, drop the mic, have a nice day. That's all they care about. Listen, there's a risk. Here's the solution to it. Here's the likelihood of this happening. Here's the cost if it happens, and here's the cost for us to fix the solution. What would you like to do? World-class CISOs present solutions. The problem is your problem, not theirs. Come to the deck with solution. And then the last one that I'll finish with is, which is tied to this, world-class CISOs focus on revenue and profit. That's what a chief officer does. If you go across an organization, anybody whose title begins with chief and ends with officer, I don't care the letters in between. I don't care what letters in between. All I'm looking at is the first letter, which is a C, and the last letter, which is an O. If you are a chief blank officer, regardless of what letter it goes in between, you are responsible for the growth, the success, the stability of the company. And with commercial settings, even government, I would argue, fits into this a little differently, but still fits. You are focused on managing the revenue and profitability of the company. Whether you're a chief executive officer, chief financial officer, or chief information security officer. That you must get. The problem is most CISOs ignore the outer letters and only focus on information security. I will tell you right now, if you're a chief information security officer and you're presenting to the executives, they don't care about behavioral analytics. They don't care about false positives and false negatives. They don't care about detection versus prevention. What they care about is, how can we minimize risk to maximize profit? How can we minimize risk to maximize revenue? So that's all you should be talking about. If you're going in and you're talking about technical problems, issues, solutions, when we really need a firewall that has behavioral analytics with cross-platform integration with this, they don't care. Save that conversation when you meet with your security team. That's when you geek out. You don't geek out in the boardroom. If you're in a boardroom and you are using words like firewalls, behavioral analytics, false positives, false negatives, correlation, incident event management, you are doing it wrong. If you're in the boardroom and you are talking about percent of occurrence, how much it will cost to fix, cost-benefit analysis, return on investment, you're doing it right. Chief information security officers talk dollars and cents in the boardroom. They talk bits and bytes with their security team. So those are some lessons learned of being a world-class CISO. I hope you understand these, apply these, and remember, it's not about learning a skill. It's about transforming and changing who you are.